So Rambo kind of wanders off a bit for a minute, and Rambo thinks he's having a mirage. And this is something I want to talk about Slycast for a second, because I remember when they did their Rambo 3 special. I wish I could have been on the rest of it to bring up this this part here, because they bring up the when, you know, like when Rambo gets to the hospital with Musa, and Musa shows him the toys that were actually bombs, or tops that were actually bombs, to kill the children. So Rambo wanders off a bit, and for a moment he thinks he's having like this mirage, and there's a field of, like a whole field in the sand of colorful, shiny children's toys, and you get the reflection of the sun off the toys. And he approaches a red and blue top. And Musa stops him just in time, explains that it's a trap, you know, it's a booby-trapped minefield for the kids to reduce future fighters. You know, a hand gone here, a foot gone there. And Rambo asks to learn the language, but he is told it's not too easy. But he wants to start blending in. So suddenly gunships roar by overhead, and Rambo gives chase to see what the Soviets are attacking. And they are mowing down an area of about 50 buildings, and there's a little girl in, like a little city, pretty much. And a little girl is stranded as the structures are falling down around her. It's kind of like a Michael Bay moment. And Rambo saves her by shooting down a gunship with the M203 grenade launcher underbelly. And the second gunship attacks Rambo and Musa. He almost gets blown up twice, you know, almost blown up twice. Rambo falls down kind of like the side of a mountain a bit, and he falls on the rock, and the rocks land on him and stuff. And surrounded by debris, he reloads and blows up the second ship. And then eventually gets battle sick and pukes because he hasn't seen battle in a bit. And he comes across an injured horse, and there's intestines everywhere. Like, this horse is like gutted all over the place, but the horse is still alive. It kind of reminds me of First Blood when they do that. You know, when the dogs go over the side of the cliff, and there's just dog parts all over the valley below. There's like intestines everywhere, and some of the dogs are alive, and one person has to kill the dog. Oh man. Yeah, so there's like horse intestines everywhere, and he puts the horse out of its misery and tends to Musa's wounds. And paramedic style, he then takes off to check for survivors. So the remains of the city are pulverized, and Rambo tries to reach the little girl, but is gun-butted to the head by these horsemen who ride in. Before he knows it, there are ropes around his wrists, around his neck. Because of his size, the Mujahideen think he's a German. Well, they're half right, you know, they're half right. So they begin to quarter him, trying to rip him apart with the horses. And sinews pop and stretch, and failing, Rambo tries to pull the horses together, but, you know, Musa saves him in the end, and the little girl Khalida, vouches for Rambo to her father. And the leader Khalid finally lets Rambo loose, and the talisman begin the task of burying their dead. Khalida's mother, which is Khalid's wife, included, to be buried as well. And we cut to Troutman being brutally beaten again. The klaxon wakes up, and a second interrogation is now going on. But Troutman won't talk, so Kurov continues in a new wave of torture. Very brutal. Then we go back to Rambo and company reaching a village camp. A sort of makeshift village. I'm not sure if it's the cave one yet. But, you know, he meets Halima and a nurse. The nurse is a Dutch woman named Michelle Pilar, and she greets them. And there are prayers going on in the background, and then a council meeting with the guerrillas, and this council also includes Raheem and Akram. And it is addressed that Rambo has brought them in weapons with his arrival. But, with the happenings of the sandstorm, kind of reminds me of the John Travolta burying the Transat machine. Anyway, I love the Transat scene, though, between Rambo and Troutman in David Morrell's sequel. Anyway, so the next day Musa goes looking for the hidden weapons that they hid after losing their horses, like their horse transports, to the sandstorm. The sandstorm. Man, my throat's killing me today. Sorry, guys. So while Musa is gone, Rambo has words with the nurse Michelle. Then Rambo joins in playing the game. And this one's a different type of horse game. And at first it's involving a lance and pegs. And Rambo knives the peg instead of lancing it for the win. Akram then invites him to play Bughazi. And they kill a calf by beheading it. And the game begins. So Rambo gets covered in calf blood and entrails. It violently turns every man for himself, and Rambo gets roughed up pretty bad. It suddenly becomes Akram versus Rambo. And he's whipped in the face and in the hands by Akram's reins, and together they almost rip the calf in half, fighting over it. And Akram whips Rambo again, so Rambo grabs Akram's beard and tries to rip it out. And tries to rip it right off. And he steals the calf. They covered it in blood and innards. Lets Akram win just before, taking the win for himself. In my opinion, which is good sportsmanship when dealing with the Mujahideen, I would expect. Because they'll kill you. They'll kill you as they go on here. And I love it because there's a lot of these things, like Brent Whiteside pointed out. That there's always this religious banter back and forth. Allah willing this, Allah willing that. Every time Rambo does something good, it's not because Rambo did it. It's because God let him do it. It's like one of those. But it's funny, and there's some good funny lines about that later on. So unbelievably and unrecognizably, it's noticed that Rambo should have won, and Akram congratulates him as if he did win. And they all gather around him to kiss. They all kiss the bloody Rambo in appreciation. Michelle joins the blood-soaked Rambo. Rambo returns their horse and then goes to the infirmary. Changes, Michelle disinfects his wounds, complains about how he smells, and introduces him to their official mine detector, Pathfinder. A belly-crawling individual with no legs. And shortly after, which is a little bit haunting when you read the book, how it's portrayed by Morrell. It goes into much more depth. And after Musa returns with the crates and the deal is back on, weapons for help to free Troutman. Or to help Rambo on his mission. So meanwhile, Kurov continues his interrogation on Troutman, who is now literally pissing blood. And so we enter the sixth part of Morrell's trilogy piece, The Valley of Pain. On the edge of the camp, cleaning his combo rifle grenade launcher inside the camp, a wedding is taking place. So Rambo's on the outskirts of the camp cleaning his weaponry, getting ready. And on the inside, a wedding is taking place, and a spy shows up with a rumor of war for the following day. And Rambo reluctantly decides to fight with them. It's an acceptance, just as long as it's done his way in a way, and Rambo, it seems Rambo has something up his sleeve at this point. And he is wondering why a wedding can be going on in such horrible times. And it is addressed, hope, these life must go on. Anyway, so they ride to spot they ride to the spot, where the convoy is going to go through to ambush them. And Rambo instructs the men to booby trap the pass. And Rambo shows Musa how to detonate any or all of the 24 charges placed even at the same time. That Rambo packs his knapsack and unpacks his knapsack and gets to his station as one of them. On his way, he has a close encounter with an approaching tank. And Musa blows the charges and ambush with Rambo leading central, and Rambo and Musa tag team detonate cannons down upon the men and tanks and takes out more enemies with his rifle and rocket launcher gun, his M203. And the gunships arrive, and a gunship arrives, he takes it out by detonating these charges across the bluff, and the tribes resume attack and take out armored carriers, and Rambo tosses a satchel in the direction of a dead guy, through a fail kind of tactic. Rambo with the assist maneuver onto a tank cannon barrel, and kaboom, just goes explosions like crazy. Rambo ignores the rebel as they're killing prisoners and leftover injured enemies like Germans who didn't die in all the carnage. And the rebels begin to stone and torture this really young German guy. And Rambo stops them in the nick of time because they're going to behead him. They have the sword up. They're ready to come down and chop off his head. Rambo stops them from killing the young soldier. And they misinterpret the gesture. They move in to disarm him. And they are very dishonored. And there must be a punishment for this, So Rambo spills his own blood to make a point. He literally cuts himself open and spills his own blood. And they are culminating steps to kill the German. And Rambo wants him alive for info, but they disagree. And Rambo's if you need bloodshed for him, I'll give you mine. And that's why he cuts open his arm. And so Rambo needs him alive, but they disagree. And Rambo reminds them of the many favors he's done for them, and now he wants a favor. And Rambo seems to be on very thin ice here. But instead of killing Rambo, they let him use the Soviet to try and get Trautmann out, but explain that if it doesn't work, that Rambo will have to behead the little soldier. So in his cell, Trautmann listens to captured prisoners being released and led out into the courtyard for termination. And Azov and Zeistin have words, and they plan an attack out on the tribespeople. And Trautmann listens on as the POWs are shot to death brutally in the courtyard at almost point-blank range. So Rambo talks to this young soldier. His name is Andreev, the one who he saved his life. He talks to him in different German dialects, and I'm guessing that's to understand, so that Andreev will understand fully, and that the Mujahideen might not be able to pick up on what he's saying. Even though it's in good faith, they could use it against him. So Andreev wants to fight the Germans, switch sides and join the Mujahideen, and eventually he wants to become a converted Muslim. He does not agree with the Nazi tactics, and they're preparing in the dark, and they study Andreev's map. He makes them a map, and it's all sneaky Pete, Allah willing, or wills, is the running joke going on throughout this book and the scene.